Hey guys, welcome back. Joe Brunsman, Insurance Broker of the Stars. I've had a lot of MSPs calling me, emailing me, hitting me up in chat, sending me messages saying, hey, how or will Kaseya be held responsible for this? It's dicey, but let's go ahead and jump on into it. Before we talk about that, that's my latest book, Damage Control, Cyber Insurance and Compliance. That is where you can down all glorious 500 pages for free. A lot of helpful info inside of there. First, let's talk about recoupment for your MSP or your MSSP. Let's say somehow you believe that you have been damaged as a result of this particular incident. Well, going into the reseller contract there that's on the Kaseya website, I just picked up clause 7.3. Obviously, look at your own contract. It could be different. And it says, except for the parties' indemnification and confidentiality obligations, neither party will be liable to the other for any indirect, special, consequential, incidental, or punitive damages, including cost of cover, lost profits. So let's say, your MSP, you lost business because of this particular incident, and you're going to try and maybe bring legal action against them. That could be very difficult with that particular clause. Lost goodwill, lost use or performance of any product, services, blah, 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 blah. Moving on, in any case, except for damages that are required by law to be paid and cannot be limited by contract, so that's not a lot, you agree that all damages are excluded except for the direct damages so that Kaseya's maximum cumulative liability, blah, 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 will be limited to the amount actually paid by reseller to Kaseya under this agreement during the 2 months prior to such liability. So what are they essentially saying here? Hey, max you're going to get out under this contract is 2 months prior of fees that you have paid to them. So probably not a lot of money there. Kind of a pro tip we saw up above, check your tech E&O policy for reputational harm. What does that mean just generally in practice? It's, hey, you were making this amount of money. Something happened, right? Some type of cyber event, clients leave. Generally, you're looking at about 6 months or so where the insurance company will make up the difference that you were making in terms of revenue. So you were making this, clients leave, now you're making this after some type of event. It helps you make up that difference there for a specified amount of time. Very, very useful, so that way you don't have to potentially shut your business down, trying to avoid laying people off. It gives you that kind of a nice cushion to bring new clients in or try and bring those clients back to keep your business rolling. If you want to learn more about limitation of liability in contracts, well, that is a video I actually put out a couple weeks ago. I will link to that above. Next, moving on, what's the applicable venue? So let's say you do want to go after these guys. Well, this is fascinating. Clause 8.10, applicable law. This agreement shall be governed by the laws of Jersey. Now, this is not New Jersey. This is Old Jersey, Channel Islands. Where is that? Well, there you go. You'll see London, Paris, you got Brussels over here, and then right down here in red is Jersey Channel Islands. And I had to write this down because I was like, what legal system does Jersey Channel Islands use? Let's see. At least according to Wikipedia, they have several legal traditions, in particular Norman customary law, which I've never even heard of, English common law, and modern French civil law. So it's kind of like a combination between everything else we use here in the U.S., the legal system only used in Louisiana, and whatever Norman customary law is. I have no clue. But suffice to say, that's probably going to be a difficult road to travel down. All right, now what about the customers and clients of Kaseya? Well, here's kind of a good little tangential note here. If you're a business owner and your client has one problem with your business during a year, that's probably forgivable. They can look over that. If there's 2 problems in a year, that could really be the impetus for people to start moving away from your business. So could MSPs or MSSPs that were using Kaseya potentially use this as the impetus to change that particular vendor, for example, to some other vendor that's out there? Well, yeah, potentially. They actually could. And so what you'll see here, this is abnormal client churn rate. And you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over technology, we could estimate that they're going to lose, say, somewhere between 4 to 5% of their client base because of this. Now, keep in mind, this cannot account for, and this is a good lesson for your own clients, this cannot account for people where this was the first problem and then later on in the year there was a second problem. So CPA firm failed to miss a tax deduction, or a wealth manager missed a trade, or your MSP failed to properly configure a firewall, right? These numbers can't account for that. But suffice to say, probably the biggest impact, I think, that Kaseya is actually going to face here is clients leaving their business. Now, what about a class action claim? A lot of people have asked me about that. Could there be a class action claim? Potentially. I mean, I am not a plaintiff's bar attorney. This is not my particular area of interest or study in the law. But potentially, yeah. And why is that? Well, this actually just pulled up from the Equifax class action claim. And you'll see here that the court held that Equifax owed the plaintiffs a duty of care to safeguard the personal information in its custody. This duty of care arises from the allegations that Equifax knew of a foreseeable risk to its data security systems, but failed to implement reasonable security measures. Now, how does this actually tie in? Well, allegedly, the vulnerability, which you'll see the CVE code there, was disclosed to them by a security research team in April. So in theory, maybe a plaintiff's attorney could say, hey, you guys knew about this for months, you didn't fix it, and you should have done that. You had some reasonable duty of care to my clients that you breached because you knew that this could be an issue and you didn't fix it. Allegedly. Now, with that, could the FTC actually come to the rescue here? Well, the FTC, in terms of government regulators, they do have some history in this area, and we just showed the class action claim from Equifax, but they were also part of a giant settlement as well. So potentially, the FTC could actually come to the rescue here, just in terms of some sort of governmental action to try and hold businesses accountable. And we're going to look through just two of those. So this was in the Matter of HTC America. This was back in 2013. FTC allegations. Company failed to take reasonable steps to secure the software it developed. And because of that, they introduced security flaws that place sensitive information about millions of consumers at risk. Now, what was the fallout here? They were required, this is HTC, to develop and release software patches, so that's not particularly a big deal. But in addition, the settlement required HTC America to establish a comprehensive security program designed to address security risks during the development of HTC devices and to undergo independent security assessments every other year for the next 20 years. So some potential there. Next case, this is in the Matter of TRENDnet back in 2014. FTC allegations, electronics company TRENDnet lax security practices led to the exposure of the private lives of hundreds of consumers on the internet for public viewing. Fallout here, TRENDnet is also required to establish a comprehensive information security program designed to address security risks that could result blah, 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 blah. The company is also required to obtain third-party assessments of its security programs every 2 years for the next 20 years. Now, in total, this is going to be interesting, so just buckle up. There are going to be all types of twists and turns to this. So MSPs are going, hey, I've been damaged, I'm going to sue them. But then you have to think about, okay, what was your agreement with these guys? Do you really want to go to Jersey, Channel Islands? Could you potentially overcome that? I'm personally fairly dubious that any private party or parties will successfully bring a claim against Kaseya. Class action claims might be a possibility here. There's a lot of hoops that the class would actually have to jump through, but it could potentially happen. The FTC is just one regulatory agency that could potentially bring some relief to consumers and the public at large here for this. Me personally, I'm not a big fan of the government or governmental actions, but I think at a certain point, the government needs to step in particular cases that are this impactful and try and set a standard for organizations to really take this seriously, or they could be facing additional liability. Now, all of that being said, make sure you have appropriate insurance in place. We talked about that reputational harm component. We also talked in other videos about how you should contractually require or consider contractually requiring your clients to actually carry cyber insurance. And all of this really kind of boils down to, hey, even if private parties are successful, the government gets involved, there's class action claims, all of that just takes time. And in the interim, your firm or your client's businesses could be out a significant amount of money, let's just say purely in business interruption costs, where you could try and look to your insurance company to make you whole again, at least in the short term, for many of those causes. Now, once again, I'm not providing any legal advice here. I have a master's in cybersecurity law. I am not a plaintiff's bar attorney. So if you ever have any questions, please seek competent legal counsel. This is a very, very sophisticated particular set of incidents with all kinds of twists and turns, as you saw above. And I'd like to ask you guys, what do you think will happen to Kaseya, and what do you think should happen to Kaseya? Leave a comment below. I am very curious to hear that. All right, with that, if you found this useful and you liked or you learned something, like, share, comment, subscribe, tell your friends. Right up above me is going to be another video for you. And if I click on my beautiful face, or at least my wife says I'm beautiful, over there, you can subscribe to this channel. New video every Thursday. With that, stay safe.